You see the headlines every single day, right? AI is going to revolutionize healthcare. But what if that whole story, the one we're all being sold, is built on a myth? Today, we're going to peel back the hype and really challenge the core idea driving AI in health, this thing called the empowerment myth.
All right, so let's get into it. You hear it all the time, right? Policymakers, tech leaders, they paint this absolutely incredible picture of the future, a world where AI unlocks this amazing new era of health and wellness for every single one of us. I mean, it's a powerful, super optimistic promise.
But that big promise, it forces us to ask the one question that this whole explainer is really about. Are we actually using AI to invent the car? Something that completely changes the game? Or are we just using this incredible revolutionary technology to make tiny improvements to a system that's already broken and outdated? In other words, are we just building faster horses? So what exactly is this big promise? Well, at its heart, the hope is that AI is going to help us achieve what's known in the biz as the quintuple aim of healthcare. That means better outcomes, lower costs, and a better experience for both patients and clinicians. A fantastic goal, for sure, no question about it. And the big strategy to get there? It all hinges on this one core idea: empowerment. The logic, well, it seems super simple, right? The thinking is if we just give people and healthcare systems more information and better predictions, then they'll naturally have the power to make better choices. And of course, those better choices will lead to better health. Simple as that. And you can see that thinking right here. It looks so clean, so linear. AI grabs a bunch of data, it spits out a prediction, it gives you some personalized advice, you act on it, and boom, your health improves. I mean, it looks like a perfect formula. But is life ever really that simple? And this is where the whole story starts to get a lot more complicated. Because that clean, simple, logical model we just looked at, well, it turns out it's actually deeply, deeply flawed. So let's break down exactly why just throwing more information at our health problems often doesn't work at all. So this empowerment model, it really breaks down in four critical ways. You can see them right here. First, just having information isn't the same as having knowledge. Second, information doesn't automatically lead to action. Third, it doesn't always make things more efficient. And fourth, it definitely doesn't guarantee real autonomy for patients or their doctors. Let's dig into each of these. Okay, first up, information is not the same thing as knowledge, especially when we're talking about fairness. And this slide, wow, it just brilliantly illustrates the difference between equality and equity. Equality is like giving everyone the exact same ladder, but equity, that's about making sure everyone gets the right ladder for them, so they can all actually reach the apple. The problem is, AI is too often trained to shoot for equality. It gives out the same kind of advice without seeing the whole person, without understanding the unique barriers they're up against. And this leads to a massive systemic problem, and it's captured in something called the inverse data quality law. Okay, that sounds complicated, but the core idea is actually pretty simple and honestly, kind of shocking. It means that the people who need the most healthcare are often the very same people who have the lowest quality, most incomplete data in the system. They're practically invisible to the very algorithms that are supposed to be helping them. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. High health needs, they correlate with low data quality. Now, what does that actually mean? It means the worried well, healthy people with smartwatches who are generating tons and tons of clean data. They get better and better AI models built just for them. Meanwhile, the people who are actually sick risk getting left even further behind. So this doesn't just fail to close the health gap, it actively risks making it even wider. All right, let's move on to that second big failure. This quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? If you have ever met a human, we're all human. Just because some app on your phone tells you to eat more kale or get 8 hours of sleep doesn't magically mean you have the time or the money or the energy or even a safe place to actually do it. Information is not action. It's just information. And this creates a really dangerous side effect. When that AI-driven advice doesn't work, when it fails to get results, the model doesn't blame itself. Oh no. Instead, it creates what's called the bad patient problem. The blame gets shifted onto the individual for being non-compliant, and it completely ignores all the real-world barriers that were standing in their way in the first place. Okay, number 3. More information doesn't automatically mean more efficiency. In fact, it can do the exact opposite. This constant stream of AI-driven predictions can create this weird state of being permanently pre-sick, where perfectly healthy people are constantly monitoring themselves for future risks. And what does that do? It drives up anxiety, it drives up demand, and it drives up costs, basically bloating the entire system with the needs of the worried well. And what about the doctors and nurses? The people on the front lines? This model creates a huge, huge dilemma for them. They're dealing with automation bias, that unspoken pressure to just trust what the computer says, even over their own hard-won clinical judgment. They're suffering from alert fatigue, just drowning in a sea of notifications. And maybe most importantly, there's the blame game. Even if an AI recommends a course of action, the human clinician is the one who carries all the legal liability if something goes wrong.
So, if this whole empowerment model is so full of holes, why is it the dominant story we keep hearing? I mean, who is driving this particular vision for the future of AI in healthcare?
Well, a huge reason is a concept called epistemic capture. Now, that's a fancy term for a pretty simple idea. It's when the people who are building the technology, in this case the tech community, end up being the ones who define the problems and the solutions, instead of the people who actually have to use it every single day, the patients and the clinicians. And this leads to two totally different ways of thinking about things. The way we're doing it now often starts with a giant pile of data and asks, okay, what can we build with this? But the approach we actually need, it starts with a real-world problem that a patient or a doctor is facing, and it asks, what data and what tools do we need to solve this specific problem? It's a subtle shift, but it's a profound one.
So, if the empowerment model is just about building faster horses, what does it look like to actually build the car? Let's talk about the alternative, using AI not just to patch up the old system, but to build completely new roads.
So here's the crucial point. AI is a systems-level technology. Its real power isn't in giving individuals slightly better tools to try and navigate a ridiculously complex and broken system all by themselves. No, its real potential is in using that bird's-eye view to help us redesign the entire system to make it simpler, fairer, and way more effective for everyone. And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question. Are we using one of the most transformative technologies in human history just to hand people a slightly better map for a maze? Or should we be using it to tear down the maze entirely and build clear, open roads to health for everyone? That right there is the real choice we have to make.